supply chain in COVID-19, impacts and strategies. So please, very warmly welcome and present your paper.
Okay, this is my paper. You can hear me? Can anyone hear me? You can hear me clearly? Okay. Okay.
Everything is okay, I think.
Yeah, so my topic is a little bit similar with what Dr. Rama just presented. So the only difference is mine is based on the experience. It's empirical research based on experience of supply chain professionals. The word experience I like to emphasize is because I ask them what they actually experience, not what they think they like to do or what they plan to do, you know. So again, I forget to introduce myself. I come from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Send a greeting to every one of you. Okay, so I'm actually from Sunway College. Okay, I will go to the next slide. Okay, the next slide, we see the outbreak of COVID-19 from end of 2019. And then it actually covered many countries. Every country get affected. Okay, and the lockdown is in different stages in different countries. Even we got second wave, we got third wave, we got fourth wave. You know, Malaysia alone, we are now almost in the second wave and third wave, which is more serious than the first wave. Okay, so then the subsequent one, I just want to tell you the background. And that actually affect the airport to be closed, the sea freight also have to be closed, the seaport have to be closed, the highway, and one of the very important relevant to us is factories are closing. Even for Malaysia, a factory closed for the first 2 months for the non-essential items, you know. And then we also got custom closed, the country borders closed. All this, it affected supply chain. Okay. So the literature review that I have here, you can see the impacts. One of that is China and Europe company. They operated only 50%. And some of that even totally no operation for weeks or some for months. And then it's a sudden unexpected delay of supplier deliveries. And we got the mismatch of the supply and demand. Because when the supplier want to send to the customer say, we got no production, we don't want it. So when it comes to when the customer want the demand, you know, demanded certain product, supplier is not operating. So this is actually what happened. And then we got shipping industry at first, the ocean freight reduced because everything become urgent, they go by sea shipment. And after that, when the airport is closed, then the seaport start again, you know. So this is some of the fluctuation that we face. And then we also, when it comes to strategies, what are the strategies? Many people talk about different type of strategies, you know. And one of that, they talk about 6 recovery actions. So you can see all these, it can be multi-tie supply chain, optimize production distribution, and you talk about assess the realistic end customer demand, and also assess the estimate the inventory, you know. And then also come to the next one, we talk about the location of supply and demand, flexible production, okay. And also we have 2 strategies, production capacity increase and the emerging sourcing of suppliers. Okay, then we also come to multi-sourcing. Multi-sourcing is not a single supplier or many suppliers in a single location. This is what happened in China. Many suppliers, they all gathered in China, you know. So when anything happen in China, we are shortage a lot of different parts. And also we talk about multi-tie supplier risk, multi-tier supplier risk. We talk about alternate suppliers. We talk about enhanced material visibility and also alternative logistic options. Okay, so I will go to my slideshow from current slide, yeah. Okay, and then we come to we have talked about this. Then we also talk about diversify our manufacturing and multiply supply source. The next one again, we also come to balance global sourcing. And negotiation with supplier for cancellation of orders, for delay of invoice payment, revisit and improve supplier relationship so the supplier will support you. And then we got something like re-evaluate our sourcing strategies, partner with the logistic providers, so you get the air space, you get the vessel space, you get the trucking space, you know. So this is actually what happened. Then we come to actually when I did the literature review, there are many people talk about resilience. So some of them talking about one of that is to delay or reduce the impact and to recover. And then we talked about the next one is to also recover, plan, absorb, talk about 4 stages of resilience. And we have someone talk about flexibility, collaboration, a robust supply chain. So we have someone talk about system, process, control, and recovery. And then we have someone say that resilience is not enough. We must have the viability, talk about open, dynamic, and behavior. Okay, then, and someone say visibility and collaboration also required. So you can see that actually, when it comes to the word resilience, different people talk about different way of resilience, you know. So it is not something that repeat is only what I put as a red print, recover. That is only the same. All the different people will talk about different terms. So we need to have more understanding of these. So, and then we have increased adoption of robotics. We got many people talking about we need to increase our transparency in technical means, technology. We talk about big data, robots, artificial intelligence, you know. I need to go to the next slide, okay? And also we talk about advanced technology, integration of all these advanced technologies. Then again, digital technology. So many people, when in this pandemic, they mention about importance of these technologies. 3D printing, we talk about blockchain, industry 4.0, we talk about Internet of Things, okay? We talk about multi-tiers of supplier, diversified geographic perspective. So then come to my research question. My research question is actually asking only 2 questions. One of that, how do supply chain professionals experience the impacts of COVID-19? And the second question is, how supply chain professionals experience the strategies to sustain in COVID-19? How do they ensure that they sustain in the COVID-19? And this is my methodology, which is a phenomenological approach, which looking at the experience, like what I say just now, not what they think, not what they perceive, not what they like to do or what they plan to do, what they have experienced, their life experience in fact. And I actually focus on the 15 E&E supply chain professionals in Malaysia. So it's a semi-structured audio recorded in-depth interviews which lasted about from half an hour to 1 hour. And I went through all these 7 steps of data analysis. I think we don't have enough time to go through all these. So now I will share with you my findings. The first finding we see that is material shortage due to the plant shutdown. We have from China and Europe suppliers. That is the most effect. And we have the factory shutdown, the order lead time increase. And when the order lead time increase, we also, when there's any shortage, of course, we know that price will increase. So whatever I put as a red print is to tell you that it's a new findings about the demand of the computer related components. When we work at home, we always got the Zoom meeting. We have the student use a online study, and that is a type computer related components become shortage. You know, some people, they want to buy a computer, At first, the first few months, there is no computer because a lot of people also trying to buy computer. And one of that also, you see the, even the glove is shortage because the production of the glove has been diverted to the medical glove. But industry, in the factory, we need to use the gloves as well. And also because there is a less traveling, we don't use petrol. And actually the nitrile of this glove is actually made from the byproduct of the crude oil. So when you don't use petrol, we don't have byproduct. You also shortage of this part as well. And why do I say about this nitrile glove? Is like what I say, industry, E&E company, they use this for their operators. Okay, we go back to the earlier one and we talk about disrupted freight transport. And this is also a very interesting findings for Malaysia. Because custom headcount reduced, their working hour reduced, because the driver did not report work, or driver diverted to e-commerce delivery. Do you know that when we work from home, we don't go out, we buy a lot of things through e-commerce. And the drivers in the way, they think that it's more attractive maybe. They think that some driver actually diverted to the e-commerce delivery. If you are talking about DHL big company, they also make delivery for E&E product. They make delivery for e-commerce also. And so that is a reason for that. And the loss of visibility, because there is lack of digital collaboration. I don't say that every one of them don't have, but if for those they don't have enough digital collaboration, they lost the visibility. And also we can see that some SME supplier, when government say lockdown, they stop their production, they need to get the operation permit. And what happened is they don't know how to apply. And so many companies, in fact, few thousand companies, they went to apply the operation permit. And government agency also find difficulties, which one to give the permit, you know. They work overtime to approve this permit. So actually, what the supply chain professionals do, they help their suppliers to get the approval, to tell them those industries are important. And also, they talk to they request customer for longer payment term. And even that recently, in the last 3-4 months, we already lifted the lockdown. But now another new problem happened. The problem is, you heard, I think you all read this news. You heard about the news of the top glove. Few thousand of their employees got infected of the coronavirus. So they cannot go to work, they shut down their factory. So not only the glove factory facing this, in fact, the E&E company themselves, when they face this, it depends how serious. If it's very serious, their company may close down for a few weeks. If it's not serious, maybe after 14 days, they will start their production again. So we also, material shortage, we uncover the saw sourcing challenges. Okay, so this one is interesting finding, is because they cannot go to overseas for supplier audits and evaluation. They want to find a new supplier. If locally we don't have, you want to go overseas, we face the same problem that you can't travel. Okay, so then we go to the strategies. Actually, we have a strategies that is, in fact, when I did the survey, I try not to put this word resilience in their mouth. And then they will continue to say, yes, we are resilient. But I want to ask, what do you do? So they will tell me that they plan for planning cycle every 2 hours. They do the daily planning instead of weekly planning. And they also try to prioritize on the high margin products. And they do multi-country sourcing. And the first thing now they do is pricing. It's not so much on pricing, it's delivery. They must have delivery, even it's expensive, especially component suppliers. If they want to find the expensive, some items they can actually buy from those disty, they can get the expensive one. And they also support their suppliers on this SOP. And one thing they do is operator permits. They support their suppliers. So those are the strategies that they do. and collaboration with custom authority, government agencies, and industrial associations. So now, a lot of people also talk about emerging technologies. In the Malaysia scenario, it is good. Everyone say that it's good. I have all those very latest technologies. But at this short period of time, how can you invest on technology? They tell me that what is more important is they must have a hybrid of the ERP system, the mobile apps, the SAP HANA, SAP Ariba. And talking about all this technology, it is good, but you need to invest it in stages. And if you talk about smart warehouse, they say that why should I have smart warehouse internally? I can always outsource to DHL. I can outsource to UPS. I can outsource my warehousing to, to FedEx. Okay, so how can you use a drone in the small warehouse? So this is something that very practical. So this is actually I come to the conclusion of my research. The limitation is a sample was limited to 16 supply chain professional. So the finding, of course, you can't generalize to other industry and countries. But the purpose of my research is to have an in-depth experience. It's not to be generalized, okay? And then the recommendation, actually, my recommendation to supply chain for professional in long-term, their strategy, they got to, in the way, to invest in the technology. And they need to think of at least every critical item, they must have 2 suppliers. They must have alternate suppliers. I come from the purchasing background. I worked in purchasing 17 years in my own experience. You think it's so easy to have multi-supplier? It's not practical because your price will be very high. It's not, in fact, the sourcing, we try to reduce the supplier base. So I would think that when you have alternate supplier, it will be good enough if they are reliable. The worst, you have the third one if it's a big volume. And I also thought about MNC need to lead the supplier in digital collaboration because there's a few experience. They told me that why they invest in the digitalization, why they invest in technology, because the customer asked them to do so, because they would not get the MNC's contract if they don't do so. So MNC is supposed to lead the supplier in order to achieve the government to provide incentive for local sourcing and of essential materials and also for digital collaboration. Now government does have this, but the amount is not big for the incentive for digitalization. Is like 5,000 ringgit Malaysia. So they need to have more. And also we talk about local sourcing. And local sourcing, it may be more expensive. It may be the quality is not so good, but more expensive. So how can government play a role in this? And we come to future research. To do the research in other industries and in other countries, and also to focus on the effectiveness of all the technologies, all these strategies I mentioned, and to do quantitative method to cover more companies. So that's all that what I have for my presentation.
Thank you very much for a very dynamic presentation of valuable research results. There are some comments and questions on our chat.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Is
please.
it okay? Because I think it's a bit difficult for me to put in the chat. Thank you, Madam Loo Saw Khuan, for your valuable presentation. My question is, the 15, do you have the demography analysis of the 15 professionals?
Okay, they
who are them, what they are in the position of E&E. So then I can comment on your findings.
Okay, I would say that they are supply chain manager in MNC.
They represent each one of them represent one organization or one organization with multiple roles?
No, each one of them only represent one organization.
And they are part of the supply chain, I believe?
Yes, every one of them involved in supply chain.
Okay, just for whatever you present is quite good, and the thing about qualitative is highly been criticized on the originality, on the robustness. So be very careful when you present the qualitative findings. You should present the demographic analysis in order to showcase that you've done a very good, thorough, in-depth interviews. So that's why it is important to have what we call a publication in good journals. So when you start with the demographic analysis, we can know as an audience, academic audience, will understand your findings. It is relevant. For example, each individual in that findings, meaning that they are the supply chain professionals and they play a role in the supply chain. Number two is how long they are in their positions. So that's the thing, a critical thing in regards of robustness of qualitative findings. So I believe if you have that structured properly in your paper, it will be a very tremendous contribution for the extension of your paper. Because I'm quite because the only thing that I get from your presentation is from the E&E industry. My question is, who are them? How long they are in this industry? And then what is their experience? And then that is very quantitative, but it is important because when you're doing, because I myself is a mixed methodologist, I do both type of research. And I found that it's very intimidating when you do a qualitative, when people looks that we just interview and get whatever the point they're given. So that's why it's been highly criticized. So that's why the demographic element is very important to make sure your data is robust and it is justifiable in regards to that. That's only my comment. Thank you.
Very good comment you're given to me. In fact, in my paper, in my proceedings, I did put all their demographic, and then also I say that they must have at least 5 years experience in their job. I agree with you that normally we do qualitative methods, we got this problem. In fact, I have actually checked after the reviewer give the comments to my paper. Actually, I went back to collect some different data because the reviewer say that at first I have some different industry. The reviewer told me that you should not. Actually, then I zoom into the E&E again. I spend a lot of time to go back and get other interviewees to come in, yeah, to improve the paper further. So I agree with you. Normally, especially your reviewer, if someone come from quantitative methods, then it's kind of difficult. Yeah, thank you so much. You understand our our challenges here.
Yeah, very good. But anyway, it's a very good paper, and it have a very good to extend to what we call it quantitative research. Back to you, Barbara. I'm taking your time.
Thank you very much, because your comment and main remark was very important for all of us that prepare papers to good journals. So thank you so much. And let me ask the questions from the chat. Okay. So the first one, given the situation under pandemic, what is the possibility of onshoring and nearshoring? Some of the raw materials, component parts, assembly facilities needs time, funding and expertise to move in that direction. What alternative is really practically possible to sustain?
Okay, actually my participants share with me a lot of good data. They told me that in order to have a second source, or you want your supplier to have a local supplier, it takes actually 2 to 4 years to develop a supplier. Okay, and also he said that when this supplier, when they are in their own country, let's say Japan, they can manage to come up with better quality. But when they come to Malaysia, it's the same Japanese Japanese-based company, their quality sometimes different. You know, the quality become different, you know. So it is a very challenging area. So it doesn't mean that you want to do localization, we can do it. It will take time. It is a very challenging area. So sometimes when it comes to no trust situation, that's why we still need to have some overseas suppliers. Of course, one of the best way is like what I say, invite the overseas supplier to open the plant here, but can they maintain the same quality? Can they maintain the same productivity? We are not sure, you know. Thank you for the question.
Mm-hmm. The next one is, what is the possibility for localization instead of globalization in supply chain sourcing to enhance the social sustainability of local suppliers during the pandemic?
Definitely local suppliers, we can get the shipment. It can come by trucking. Trucking, the only thing about trucking is only delay. You know, if due to a lot of roadblock, the block from the policeman, the block from the government, that is the only problem. But when you have a overseas supplier, when the border closed, then we got the problem already. So definitely it will be good. But then local sourcing got another problem is at times we may not be able to meet the price that we want. You know, especially now we got cheaper country, they can produce cheaper. We got Myanmar, we got Cambodia, we got Vietnam, they can do cheaper. So sometimes it's just not justified to go for to come to localization, even include the what do you call that, the sea freight. It's still cheaper at times to go to overseas. So we really need to plan this very careful in the sourcing strategy.
Okay, so I think that it generates generally new challenges to supplier management. So the third question is, how did the large organizations help the SMEs to sustain the pandemic? So it is the question about probably the collaboration also between the biggest players and their smaller, for example, suppliers or customers, smaller players.
Okay, my answer will be, actually they already help. What they do is they help them to apply the government agencies permit in order to operate. And also what they can do is actually when the supplier shortage of items, you know, this MNC, they got the bigger muscle, they can always negotiate for the supplier, for the third tier supplier, you know, to supply them, and they can always get the better negotiation. So this is what MNC can do. And another way, when you come to SAP Ariba, SAP HANA, actually now we got a lot of the cloud one, which are the cloud-based one, which is cheaper. So how can they do? At times they just, like the cloud Ariba, they just need to apply, invite the supplier to join them, and supplier can just go to the cloud. It is not so expensive in the way. So these are all the things that require. Even like the case of today when we happen to talk glove, you know, the employee get infected, and due to they got accommodation which is not so good, they put so many workers in one house. So this is also what the MNC can help them. MNC got a lot of knowledge how to manage all these labor standards, you know. How can they help them to improve with all the SOP, with all the improvement that required?
Okay, thank you. There is the last question on the chat, but maybe there is also a question from the audience. This is the time to ask. Okay, so the last question from our chat is, what is the strategy carried out in Europe due to the problem of material supply shortages in China?
I don't get your question.
This perspective.
Your question again?
What is the strategy carried out in Europe due to the problem of material supply shortages in China?
What can we do when there is a material shortage in China?
what can do European companies? How do they manage such crises, like raw materials shortage or production shortage?
How do they manage the China suppliers?
I think it is not my question, it's from the chat. So sorry, I cannot explain. Maybe the author will comment at a comment, please. It's the question is from Sulis Setia. I'm sorry for the pronunciation if I make any errors.
Okay.
Professor Barbara, I want have one question, please.
Yes, please. So I leave this question, the former one, on the chat. So you can write also the answer. Okay, so please ask the question. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Dr. Loo. Interesting paper. Talking about supply chains in the context of international trade, what do you think about the role of cooperation between countries in building supply chain resilience? Could this be a strategy for your opinion, especially to prevent a global supplier monopoly? This is also related to the global product prices. Thank you.
Okay, between the countries, what can they do? Definitely, the country they need to know. They need to have a free trade, you know, and then make sure that the free trade can happen in the different countries. But of course, that comes back to the question: how do you protect your local industry? So normally the free trade can't happen is because you got too much of the import already. Then the export is less. That is what US trying to do. So in order to protect their local industry, so I would say that they need to have a balanced one, you know, and then at the same time, when there's too much of import, the local industry needs to be protected. And this will go very high level to the the politicians, to the government, between the two countries. That they need to work out what is the best for them, you know, and it needs to be fair to each other and win-win to each other, you know.
Maybe you have some example between Indonesia, between Indonesia and Malaysia. Do you have a data cooperation between two countries?
I don't have. This is outside the scope of my research. Actually, I don't have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Prof. Barbara.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think it is a new field to do research, okay?
Yeah.
And devoted to supply chain collaboration. Thank you very much, Dr.